So we're diving deep into tissues today. Should be fascinating.
Yeah, tissues are more complex than a lot of people realize. I mean, we all know our bodies are organized systems, but when you really think about it, it all comes down to these groups of cells working together. Pretty incredible.
Right. It's like the ultimate in teamwork.
Yeah.
But let's back up for a sec. We know that all living things are made of cells. But tissues, that's where it gets interesting.
Exactly. One cell can only do so much on its own, but when they form tissues, each doing a specific job.
It's like the difference between a solo musician and, like, a whole orchestra.
Perfect analogy. So much more complex and way more powerful. And in this deep dive, we're looking at how those musical arrangements, so to speak, differ between plants and animals.
Which makes sense, right? Because the challenges for something that moves around versus something rooted in place, like, those are totally different.
Totally. Plants, for example, need a lot more support since they can't exactly just walk to a new spot when things get tough.
It's like comparing a redwood tree to, I don't know, a skyscraper.
I like it. Both impressive, but built really differently. Plants have evolved these supportive tissues, often made of dead cells with thick walls to help them stand tall.
Which they need to do, right? Especially if you're like a massive oak tree that's been around for centuries. But if they're made of mostly dead cells, how do they even grow taller? It's not like those cells are hitting the gym.
That's where the meristematic tissues come in. They're like the growth zones of the plant.
Growth zones.
Yeah, the cells in those areas are constantly dividing, multiplying, making the plant taller and taller.
So it's like constant construction, but on a tiny scale.
Yeah.
I actually remember reading about this experiment with onion roots. It's a great example.
Oh, you mean the one where they cut off the tip of the root?
Yeah.
Without that tip where the apical meristem is, the roots couldn't grow longer. They could still grow thicker, but, they were stuck.
So that tiny little tip is basically mission control for plant height. That's wild. But plants have to do more than just grow, right?
Totally. And that's where the permanent tissues come in. These cells, they actually started out in those meristems, but then they differentiate.
Yes.
They take on specific roles.
Okay, so they go from construction worker to whatever the plant needs. Some become chefs, some become teachers.
I love it. And just like in a well-run city, each department, or in this case, tissue type, has to work properly for the whole thing to function. Let's start with parenchyma.
Parenchyma sounds familiar.
It's the most common type, and it does a little bit of everything. Storing food, sometimes it even contains chlorophyll for photosynthesis.
Wait, chlorophyll, that's what makes plants green, right?
Exactly. And in aquatic plants, it can even develop these little air cavities to help them float. Talk about multi-talented.
Seriously, they're like the ultimate multitaskers. Okay, what else is on our plant tissue tour?
Well, what good is being tall if you're not a little bit flexible, right?
True, you need to bend with the wind.
And that's where parenchyma comes in. These cells provide that flexible support.
So that's how, like, vines can twist around or leaves can move in the breeze without snapping?
Exactly. But what about the really tough parts of plants? Like those prickly thorns or, a coconut shell?
Oh, right.
That's sclerenchyma, the tough guy. They're actually dead at maturity, which sounds weird, but they have these super thick walls, makes them perfect for protection.
So it's like storage, flexibility, and protection. Are we missing anything? Oh.
Yeah.
What about those outer layers? Plants need defenses, too.
Absolutely. That's the epidermis, their first line of defense. It covers the whole plant body.
Okay, like armor.
Even better, it has these tiny openings called stomata to let the plant breathe.
Wait, breathe.
Well, take in carbon dioxide, release oxygen.
Right, of course.
And some epidermal cells even have this waxy coating.
Fancy. So it's like climate control. Plants are way cooler than I thought.
Right, and we've only scratched the surface. We haven't even gotten to the complex tissues like xylem and phloem.
The what and the what?
Xylem and phloem, but we can save those for next time.
Okay, Cliffhanger. I'm ready to learn about those next time.
Ready for those complex tissues.
Hit me with it. I'm ready for more plant knowledge.
All right, so we're talking xylem and phloem.
The what and what?
Xylem and phloem, they're the dynamic duo of the plant world, make up the plant's transportation network.
Okay, so we're talking plant circulatory system. Do they have, like, tiny little plant trucks moving stuff around?
Not trucks, but kinda. Imagine, like, pipes running all through the plant from the roots way up to the leaves. That's xylem. It's a network of specialized cells, they're called tritides and vessels, that move water and minerals upwards.
So it's like the plant's water supply line.
Yep, keeps everything hydrated. But what about food? Plants make that during photosynthesis.
Right. So how does that get where it needs to go?
That's the phloem's job.
Yeah.
Think of it like a plant's version of Grubhub or something, taking those glucose molecules from the leaves where they're made to all the other cells.
So two completely separate systems.
They work together, but yeah, they do different things. And the phloem, it's a two-way street. It can transport things both up and down.
Wow. Plants really have got it figured out. This whole vascular system is seriously impressive.
Right. It's a great example of how structure matches the function in biology. But enough about plants for now. Ready to move on to animals?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about those animal tissues, especially since, those are the ones we're made of.
Yeah.
So we've got plants that stay put and animals that can run and jump and swim, even do the tango.
Mm-hmm.
How do their tissues reflect that?
Good point. Animals need to be a lot more coordinated, flexible, all that. So they have 4 main tissue types to make that happen: epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous.
Okay, let's break down this Fab 4 of animal tissues. What's first?
First up is epithelial tissue. It's all about protection.
So like our skin.
Skin's a big one, but it's also inside the body, covering surfaces, acting as a barrier.
Keeping the bad stuff out, right?
Exactly. And it controls what goes in and out, like your digestive system uses it to absorb nutrients.
Okay, so it's like a security checkpoint, making sure only the right things pass through.
I like that. And just like we saw with plants, epithelial tissue comes in different shapes depending on its job.
Oh, right. Form follows function.
Exactly. So we've got squamous cells. They're thin and flat, good for lining blood vessels because things need to move through quickly there.
Right. You wouldn't want traffic jams in your blood vessels.
Then there's cuboidal epithelium, more cube-shaped, as you might guess. They're for support, so you find those in places like your kidneys.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What other shapes are we working with?
Last but not least, columnar epithelium. These are tall and thin, kind of like skyscrapers. They're in your intestines, helping absorb nutrients.
Maximizing that surface area. I remember learning about those. Some of them even have cilia.
You're right. Like in your respiratory tract, they're moving things along all the time.
Our bodies are amazing. What's next on our tour? We've got epithelial covered.
Let's talk connective tissue. It's
Yeah.
the master of, connection.
Sounds pretty straightforward. What's so special about it?
It's way more diverse than you might think. We're talking everything from your blood to your bones.
Wait, blood and bones are both connective tissue?
Yep. The key is something called the extracellular matrix.
Okay, and what's that?
Basically, it's the stuff that surrounds the cells, and that can be a liquid or a gel or even solid. And that's what makes connective tissue so diverse.
Okay, I'm listening.
So, blood. Its matrix is the plasma, that liquidy stuff, carries all the blood cells around.
Like the delivery system for the body.
Exactly. Then you've got bone, totally different. Its matrix is rock solid, right? Calcium, phosphorus gives it strength.
That's wild. It's like saying a feather and a brick are both building materials because they both kind of provide structure.
Exactly. And we're not done. Ligaments, for example, they connect your bones together.
Right. Those are important. Keep everything where it's supposed to be.
They're made mostly of collagen, makes them strong, but with some flexibility too.
Okay, that makes sense. What about tendons? Those are muscles to bones, right?
Yep. Tendons have to be super strong. Their matrix is similar to ligaments, but a little different. It's how they get that tensile strength.
So many different materials for all the different jobs.
Right. And then there's cartilage that's in your joints, helps things move smoothly.
Oh, right, cartilage. It's not as hard as bone, though.
Nope, it's firm but rubbery, and it doesn't have a blood supply.
Really?
Yeah.
No wonder it takes forever to heal.
Right. But it's great at what it does. Think about how you can bend your ear and it pops right back.
Okay, that is pretty cool. Like a built-in stress ball.
Right. And then we have areolar tissues, like the packing material of the body. It surrounds your organs, keeps them safe.
The bubble wrap. Gotcha.
And finally, there's adipose tissue.
Wait, isn't that just...
Fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's important. It insulates us, stores energy, and cushions organs.
Okay, so next time I'm feeling down about my adipose tissue, I'll just remember it's there for a reason. So we've got protection, connection. What about movement?
Muscle tissue. It's how animals move.
Now we're talking. Tell me everything. Muscle tissue. It's how animals move, right?
Yeah.
So how does that even work? Like, are there tiny little weightlifters in there flexing?
Even cooler, it's all about these proteins, actin and myosin, that slide past each other, makes the muscle contract.
Wait, so it's like millions of microscopic rowers all pulling at the same time.
Exactly. It's all about those coordinated contractions.
Makes sense. But we don't just have one type of muscle, right? I mean, the stuff that controls my arm isn't the same as my heart.
Right. Good point. We've got skeletal, smooth, and cardiac muscle. Skeletal muscles are the ones you're thinking of. They're attached to your bones, help you move around.
So when I'm, like, reaching for another cookie, it's my skeletal muscles doing the work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're called striated muscles sometimes because they actually look striped under a microscope.
Strut muscles. Who knew? Okay, so those are the ones we control. What about the ones that just do their own thing? Like, I don't have to think about digesting my food, thankfully.
Right, that would be a lot. That's your smooth muscle working. They're in the walls of your organs, your stomach, intestines, all that, constantly contracting and relaxing.
So they're like the ultimate multitaskers. Always got to keep things moving. But they look different from the striated ones.
Yeah, they're not striped, hence the name smooth, and we don't consciously control them. That's your autonomic nervous system.
Okay, so smooth muscles for the stuff we don't think about. What about the heart? It's a muscle too, right?
It is. Cardiac muscle. Very important. It's involuntary too, thankfully. Imagine having to remind yourself to make your heart beat.
That would be stressful.
Yeah.
But is it striated, like the skeletal muscles?
It is striated, but it has these branching fibers, really unique, and they have these special junctions between the cells.
So they all work together.
Perfectly. That's how you get that steady, rhythmic heartbeat.
So cool. Okay, we've covered epithelial, connective, muscle. What's left? Nervous tissue.
You got it. That's the communication network of the body, made up of neurons.
Neurons. I've heard of those. They send signals, right?
Exactly. Each neuron has a cell body, dendrites, and an axon. Dendrites receive the signals, and the axon transmits them.
Okay, so it's like the dendrites are the ears and the axon is the mouth.
Kind of. They work together to send signals super fast throughout your body.
That's how we can, like, think about something and then do it.
Exactly. It's incredible how quickly it all happens.
It really is. We've covered so much about tissues, plants, animals. It's amazing how much goes on at the microscopic level to keep us all functioning.
Right, and we just scratched the surface. There is so much more to learn about this. It makes you wonder, what other crazy adaptations are out there in nature?
It really does. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me today. It's definitely given me a new appreciation for all the amazing things our bodies can do. Until next time.